choices that we made, it ended up setting the seed for a really, really strong culture that I now talk about to other people, you know, like years down the track, and they go, oh, that's so progressive, oh, that's so progressive. And I'm kind of sitting there going, I was just kind of being lazy at the time, but it worked out pretty good. So a little bit of a backstory. I did really, really bad at school. School wasn't for me. I failed most of my subjects, and then I thought, if you suck at studying and you're no good at school, then FIFO is probably for you. So I went and got my truck license and went up and worked up on the mines for a couple of years doing drilling offsiting. It was a hard yakka, but there were some things that I learned from that job experience that were really helpful when it came to hiring and managing staff. Some of the things like, if I fucked up or if I like hurt myself on the job, I would get in big, big trouble. Has anyone like been on a mine site before? Yeah, and like something small like nicking your finger, you like cowered up to the supervisor because you don't want him to accidentally see that you nicked your finger, and you might just be like, sorry, I kind of hurt myself on this piece of machinery. And you turn around and go, where's your take 5? Where's your JHA? This kind of stuff, and you're like, oh fuck, I didn't do it, I'm sorry. And then, then you're written up, naughty employee. And I have a problem with authority, obviously, because I didn't do very well at school. So I just hated that. I was like, I was just trying to do the right thing. I was just trying to do my job, and now I'm in trouble. Like, I didn't deliberately set out to hurt myself. And that really stuck with me as a part of my experience in FIFO is you kind of get told off just for doing your best, and there's no reward. There's a really like a culture up there of if there is a mistake, you got to hide it because you get in trouble. And that's what I learned a lot from my FIFO experience. And then I thought, after doing FIFO, that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, and I didn't want to be flying in and out, especially if you want to have a family in the future. And I was missing my friends, so I thought I better use my brain. I went and studied. The only thing that they would let me do was sports science at ECU. Play with balls, that kind of thing. You can't read and write, but you get to play with, sports stuff. And then I found my niche with anatomy and movement and science in injuries, and I progressed to physiotherapy. And then this is where I found my jam, and I started to progress through the degree. At this point, I also started working in disability. And the reason why I did that was because I had this understanding that if I was going to be a physio, I would have to work with people experiencing disability. And I was terribly uncomfortable around disability. So, in the street, if I saw someone experiencing disability, I'd kind of shy away, don't stare at them, don't know how to act. And then I hated myself for that, because I was like, why am I acting like that? And my brain went, well, to get over that, you've got to throw yourself in the deep end. So I went and got a job as a disability support worker and a carer. Now, I'm doing disability support work, I'm doing my physio degree, and halfway through that, I realized that there's a huge problem with disability. That was 4 or 5 years before the Royal Commission, and figured out that there was such a poor, there was so many facets of the industry that fostered poor quality. There was high turnover, no training, all this kind of stuff, and it led me to found or create Ascend Health Group in 2017. And I was super bitter. Like, I had just been in this industry for 5 years and I'd hated it. I was like, I can do better, and I know the perfect people to hire. It was the therapy students. And I knew what it did for me. I knew that as a physio student working in disability, I got to understand people outside the home. I got to understand them outside the clinic. And this whole idea of, well, I can improve the quality of therapists. They're going to learn empathy-based care. They're going to know what their patients like outside the home. They're going to understand how to communicate. And it's a really, really valuable experience for the people experiencing disability as well. So we got that cranking, we're hiring therapy students, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just really had a problem that I wanted to solve with disability. Then in the process of building a Ascend Health Group, I was like, fuck, that's really hard. I just want to automate it and create a business solution for everyone to do this, where anyone in their home can access someone that's qualified and trained, and they can come to them, and the software handles the business process or the transaction for them. And that's when Bruno Health was founded, probably really early 2019, probably more late 2018, roughly. And then we had two businesses. So one was, brick and mortar service, and the other was, I don't give a fuck, I'll make the software so everyone can do it. Now, I'm mainly going to be talking about the Ascend Health Group because that's the one that's now doing quite well. We've had a lot of problems with trying to implement a system for a culture and an industry that's not ready for like an Uber-like system for their services. And we know this because we've got competitors we're trying to do the same thing. They've got $20 million. We've only got a couple of $1,000, and we both can't achieve it. But we'll get onto that later. So I really wanted to improve the quality of services, but I learned when I was at uni I'm quite dyslexic, and it was only through a tutor telling me that your handwriting is borderline illegible, no wonder you failed English, but your practical skills and the way that you talk is really good, so there's a real big mismatch. And that's when I went and got the psych to do some stuff and tell me something I probably already knew. But what this meant is when it came to doing normal business stuff and all the tools out there, they get you to do a lot of writing and a lot of planning, and you got to write policies and all this kind of shit. And I was just like, no, like I don't want to do that. Like, I hate it. Anyone that makes me sit down and write a business plan now, I just go, you're wasting my time. Just listen to me and let's just talk through this. We'll write a few dot points. We'll think about some things we're going to do over the next week or two, or maybe the day or two. Anyway, that does not fly with investors. But I didn't like writing, I didn't like planning. What this meant is when it came to like writing a job ad, I wrote the bare minimum. Or if I posted something on Facebook to try and find or recruit, I wrote the bare minimum. So these ads out there that just look terrible, okay? And what it meant is that we were getting all kinds of different people in. We weren't attracting people that were looking at a flashy ad or a flashy business or anything like that. And I'll get onto why that kind of fits into the story in a bit. But overall, there was a lot of focus on chat and that kind of stuff. So going on to the policies, and everyone telling me that as a new company, you need lots of policies and you need lots of rules and all this kind of stuff. And my thoughts went back to my FIFO experiences, where if you get too many rules and you have too many processes and too many procedures, you end up being an employee that just follows rules and procedures. And in your head, this is what was happening. I was like, I don't want to turn into that company like I was up north, where they're really, really saturated in procedures and rules and paperwork and stuff like that. You're just spending your whole time just making sure that you're following the process and the rules and that kind of stuff, and it really narrows your mind. And that thought, especially in disability care, if you've got a really narrow mind and you're really focused on not breaking rules, you're not going to be able to interact with the person that you're working with, and you're not going to be able to sit down there and relax and understand what's actually going on. So what I did is I wrote these really vague policies, and when I sat down with people that we employed, as I said, do you guys understand what policies are? Do you understand what they mean? And they're like, no, we just always just sign them and go ahead. And I said, well, policies are like company rules, okay? And if you break them, then we fire you, okay? But I don't like these things, all right? But I have to have them. And if you do really, really naughty stuff, I'll pull them out, like if you do really, really bad stuff. However, when you come work for us, just forget the rules, okay? Don't be thinking, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. And the conversation that we have is, if you do stuff up, or if you do break something or something goes wrong, we didn't train you well enough, all right? It's not that I didn't make a rule for you to follow, I didn't train you well enough, okay? So then the conversation turns into, let's not make a rule, let's update our training. And that was the process with anything that went wrong, is like it always turned into training. when, I guess, one of the things that relates to my laziness is when things did go wrong, I was told by a lot of advisors to update your policies or to update rules or do a procedure or something like that. And my old man, he's an OH&S consultant for mine site companies, so you can imagine when I had this conversation with him that this went wrong or that went wrong, he was like, oh, do like a procedure, I don't want to ever do this again. And I'm just like, oh, the line's gone bad, sorry, like, gotta go. But in many ways, I couldn't be bothered, and then B, what ended up happening is not having rules started fostering all these different ideas and all these different ways of doing things. And I'll get on to where that collaboration came in. Sorry, is it Glenn? Yeah, I'm gonna maybe talk some shit about how we do our hiring and yeah. So
we coach clients on these elements of what you're talking about as well. So
oh, great.
It's about behaviours and other stuff too, not about.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a huge opportunity to leverage my connections with the university. Okay, so I could get in front of all these university students, which was insanely fortunate for the industry, which really struggles to hire in disability care. You can go on Seek right now and have a look. There'll be at least 70 ads a fortnight just in disability support. And we're in the fortunate position where if I want, like last week, we've got a recruitment officer. I said, we need more support workers. He called me up yesterday and said, I've got another 10 ready to go. Right, whereas other organizations, they go, we've got a 6-week waiting list, okay? Anyway, so what I found is when I started to do hiring, I spoke to people, how do you do hire? Googled, how do you hire people? And you see the traditional kind of procedure, and that's what I started with, was let's look at your CV, let's read your references, ask you some questions, all that kind of stuff. And after about 1 or 2 occasions of doing this normal way, I was kind of like, they all look the same. All these CVs, they all put effort into, they're reliable, they're prompt, they're punctual, they've got a good sense of humour, they've been said that they're the top of their class, or they've got a Duke of Edinburgh award or something like that. And it's like, when it comes to disability care, none of that matters. You can't pull out your little award and show the client and be like, look how good I am. Like, it doesn't mean shit. So what we ended up figuring out was, let's just throw your CV in the bin. And it was quite a shock when people come in for an interview and they've got their CV there and they go, oh, here's my CV, and you just kind of scrunch it up and like put it in the bin. And they're like, oh, that was like so much hard work and so much effort, and you just like pretty much trashed it. And I was like, I don't care about your CV in our experiences. The people with the best CVs and the best accolades have really struggled in this job, and it switched the narrative straight away that I don't care how well you've done. I don't care about how hard you've worked for your awards or your certificates or anything like that. I want to know who you are as like an organic person. So my first question would be like, what'd you do on the weekend? And they would be like, nothing. I was like, well, that's really boring and really sad. Are you sure you like want to work for us? You know, the support work that we do encourages fun, adventure, go surfing, go to the beach, go hiking, do these kinds of things. Do you do any of that? I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I went and did this and that. And then you ask more questions about that. So then you're like, okay, was that fun? Or what'd you do? Who'd you go with? And then it starts to create a more organic narrative, and you can actually understand who the person is a little bit better. Rather than that, it's almost like how we get trained to do our pitches for companies. You know, you get up there, you start with your problem, then you come out with your solution and your painkiller. It's all like a very procedural thing. Trying to cut through that, the kind of thing that they would do was a bit difficult, but once you did get through, you had a really good idea of the person you were dealing with and who best to sort them through.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you do the initial selection? I mean, as the second stage, right?
So yeah, this is what I was just about to talk about.
Okay.
Is we hire anyone, all right? The only condition that we have is that you're a therapy student at Curtin or ECU or Murdoch. That's it. I don't care what age, what your life experiences are. There will be a fit for you with one of our members experiencing disability. But it's organic kind of reach through all their Facebook groups, and maybe we might call up a lecturer or a tutor and be like, hey, have you got any students that would like to come and work for us? That's the only parameter. As long as you're enrolled at uni, studying physio, OT, speech, nursing, medicine, then you're in the door. And like one of the things that you might think about is like, oh, what if you get this person that is just clearly really shy and they're not coming out and they seem like they don't know anything? Still hire them. I'd hire them no matter what. I'd just bring everyone through the door, because at the end of the day, if they've never worked in disability, they don't know how they're going to behave when they get into that area or when they get into that situation. So our actual hiring process was really, really long, in the sense that you come in, you have this interview with us where we set your expectations. Pretty much like, you could be working with someone violent that could punch you. You could be working with someone that's severely disabled, we're talking quadriplegic, cerebral palsy. You'll have to shower them, dress them, do all that kind of stuff. Or you could be working with someone that's got complex social issues with family members that might be violent or aggressive, and set the tone like that. Then said, okay, we'll find someone to work with you. And then the real job interview was when they were doing the buddy shift with that person. And once again, a lot of this came out of laziness, because putting effort into making a really structured interview process, I couldn't be bothered. And I was like, at the end of the day, the ones that pass with flying colours, you put them in that environment, and if they don't excel, they don't like it. And if they fail, they don't like it, because they're high achievers. And there is a lot of experiences in disability where you just have to sit with people, and you can't have the expectation that it's all going to be glory and it's all going to be improving. So we ended up moving away from doing that, because I couldn't be bothered doing the interviews. Just said, just throw them in the deep end, put together a job trial contract, and said, you're welcome to try to hang out with one of our workers as long as you want. If you think you can do the job, I'll ask the other person you're working with, and if they like you, they give you the job. I don't give you the job. So that was another. Let me just check the next slide, because I might be going into that one. No. All right. So the next rule that we made with hiring is, actually this is still true to this day, I've never actually hired anyone at Ascend Health Group. At Bruno I have, but at Ascend Health Group we made a rule that you hire your friends. Okay, yeah, like if you know anyone and you trust anyone to do a good job or meet the expectations that we have at Ascend Health Group, then yeah, hire them. I don't, and all of a sudden, we've got a system where people like to hire their friends, they get their friend's job, and it's a really kind of organic network that keeps growing and growing and growing. There was also a nice little emphasis on they will be accountable for that person as well. And through that way we said, look, if you hire your friend, they don't have to do a job interview. As long as they're a therapy student, they've got a job. Then the buddy shifts, are they comfortable, are they doing a good job? And then if things went wrong, which it has with like probably about 2 or 3 people where they've just haven't hit their groove, they haven't been doing as well as they possibly could, the people that they're working with are disappointed, then we bring them in and do more training. If they don't respond to the training, then we let them go. But we actually haven't got to that point yet where they haven't responded to the training. You bring them in, you go, for whatever reason things aren't going well, find another member, that kind of stuff. But essentially, in summary, our hiring is that I don't do it, I trust my employees to do it, and there's no interview, and they just go straight into the job. So the next thing was leading into, once they do get a job with us, is they have to do lots and lots and lots of training. And that's what I put all my effort, all my resources. I didn't build any processes, any content, nothing like that. I suck at it. I hate writing. I'd rather just stand up and talk with 10 words on a page. And I knew that's what I was good at, so that's what I focused on. So you get a job with us, once you start with our company, you're going to come to weekly training like a sports team. All right, so you're constantly improving, you're constantly getting updated. And then I gave them heaps of piss and pizza, and then they all rock up. So the initial intention with this was I'll train them up to create the better service that I wanted. But what actually ended up happening was, this was the really important point about the culture, was it was like-minded people, therapy students, all hanging around. And then after the training, we had something called collaboration, where I said, get in your groups and talk about the people that you look after. I'll bring the pizza, I'll bring the beers, and I just sat back and it was just like, my initial intention was pizza and beers would bring them in, but I didn't realize that they would sit down and talk in depth about the people that they were working with. So, this worked so well to the point where, like, it'd be like midnight, and I'd be at the office, and I'd be kind of like looking at my watch, like after a long day at work, going, are these guys going to leave? Like, and they wouldn't. They'd just sit there and chat and keep socializing and talking and all this kind of stuff. And part of me wanted to kick them out of the office, but another part of me went, this is a really organic kind of bond that these guys are building, and it's, something's telling me that we need to not interrupt this. So I just kind of suck it up and sit there and just play on my phone or wait until they were done. But yeah, they'd stay until midnight, given the opportunity. Cool. Do that every week. Then, like I said before, if they do anything wrong, I always took that upon myself, like I had done something wrong. So this came from my background in FIFO, that I really hated that if something had gone wrong, that they really pointed the finger at you and made you feel terrible for what you did. And that stuck with me so much that if anything ever went wrong, I'd sit down and go, look, it's not your fault. You were just trying a new thing, or you didn't know. It's my job to train you better. Let's talk about how we can never make this happen again. And really tried to reverse that experience that I had up on site. Things will go wrong, but what this method did is, when I asked with employees, they said it really installed a lot of trust. Is that I trust you to try anything, and I trust you to do whatever you want, and if it goes wrong, it's on me, kind of thing. Like, I'm the one with it, and it kind of opens up this liberation to provide better services, because they'll try anything, they'll do anything, and then you're not stuck in like one of those other companies that might take their member to the shops. How many people go to the gallery here and you just see people whizzing around with wheelchairs, and there'll be someone walking next to them? Because the culture of those companies, even when I worked at them, was just take them to the shops. There's food, there's shopping, there's lights, and there's a movie if you get bored. Right? And because of that procedural culture of that's the easy place to take them, go. Sure, it popped into people's minds. Oh, maybe I might take them to, the beach, or take them to Kings Park, or take them to these different places. But they go, oh, what if something goes wrong? What if something happens and I get in trouble? Whereas I really wanted to reverse that kind of culture. And what they said about, the best thing about working here is I can do whatever I want. Part of this developed from me hating rules and not wanting to write rules, because I was lazy and I didn't want to write policies for the vehicle policy. Only drive within this distance of their house. Only stay on sealed, gazetted roads, all that kind of stuff. I was like, nah, I just can't be bothered. Just do whatever you want. Anyway, they really love that aspect. So in summary, we really avoid making rules. In the 3 years that we've been with Ascend, I've only made one kind of strict rule, and that was to do with reporting. After every shift, they've got to document their session, and the quality of writing was really not great. So the software that we have, I just set word limits on it and said you've got to write a certain amount, and all of a sudden we're all good again. The quality's up there. We have very, 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 very relaxed recruitment. At all the trainings, most of the stuff, just hire your friends, bring him in, bring him to training, see what it's about, that kind of thing. And we concentrate on, once they do like it here, we really concentrate on making sure they come to train, they get the knowledge they need, and they've got the people around them to support them in the job that they have. Yeah, so we don't make rules, instead that turns into our training. We've got a huge training component now. At first it started with like 3 modules, then 5, then 10, and now it's all the way out to 50. So we've got 50 different topics that we can recycle every single week in related to disability care and therapy. We train like a sports team. So the culture and the notion that I give them is, you've got to have your defenders, you've got to have your offense, and you've got to have your team captain. I want you guys to run like a sports team. And you look at, I was a big fan, not a big fan, I did a lot of sport growing up, a bit of elite stuff. But when I really wanted to run this analogy, it was because when you look at the general population and what they can do with sport, and how often they play compared to like the elite level that train like 9 times a week, something in my head kind of went off like, if you really want to improve the services, you've got to be practicing it as much as an elite athlete. So that's why I went with like training every week. Every single week you got to rock up and train. And a big part of it was me wanting to get that content to them. But the other accidental thing that they reported was, it's actually a similar thing that you guys have happening here. There's a regular place where you meet up, you network, you connect, there's like-minded people. So I didn't really deliberately set out to do that, but that's what the overall achievement was, is that if I trained like a sports team, and they ended up actually just creating really strong relationships within the teams of people that they looked after. We let everyone try everything, and then we helped them find a way to enjoy their work. So, if they want to try something because it will help help them enjoy their work. For example, I really like ice skating, and my member wants to get out. Members are our patients or our customers, and our member wants to get out and try some new different things. I like ice skating, but isn't that kind of risky? No, go for it. Go do your ice skating. If you fall over and hurt yourself, bodies do heal. I know that. I studied for a little while in physiotherapy. It's actually really hard to stop your body from healing unless you've got something like AIDS or some kind of complex genetic thing. But anyway, that's my summary. I think we can just chat about some questions and stuff like that you guys might have. Ooh. Yeah.
How do you make sure your company's culture is consistent while everyone's doing whatever they want?
Yeah, that's something that actually popped into my mind about a week or 2 ago. I was like, we've got this like surveys, kind of like, a part of what stimulated this is we've got the 2 companies. We've got Ascent Health and we've got Bruno. One of them is niche, high quality services. It's what I'm talking about. And then we've got Bruno, which is the scalable version of what we want to do. And when we were like, kind of like, can you guys go to Bruno? Like, can some people go and work on Bruno? We want to test out some things that we're doing. They would be like, no, I want to stay with Ascent. And we go, why? And you go, well, the culture's really good. And I was like, sorry, what? They're like, the culture is really, really good. We love working here. It's fantastic. And then when you started to talk about these things, it got my mind thinking, how can I scale that? Like, how can we make sure that is maintained? So my quick fix for that, which is something quite lazy, is I just gave some more responsibilities to some of the people that have been there a bit longer. So one of the guys, I said, hey, do you want to earn 0.5% investing for 1 year? He was like, yes. I was like, well, you're in charge of recruitment. You have to pump the message and push the message that hire your friends, hire anyone that you know. As long as they're a therapist student, they got a job. And what you have to do is foster them in the early stages. So I guess just delegating the tasks that maybe I was doing. And then I got another guy and said, another 0.5% investing, you're in charge of teaching and learning. You've got to make sure that we continue or improve on or do more training or more situations for people to come together and network. So his answer was, well, how about everyone's traveling? We've got services all the way down in Mandurah, and as far north as almost Yanshire. It's just a long way for people to travel just to come together, but they do. His idea was we'll have one training session on 1 week at the central hub, HQ, and then the next fortnight, everyone does their own training in, for Team Joondalup, it's Joondalup, for Rockingham, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess to answer your question, that's what I've done, but I don't know.
Can I ask how much funding have you had for your business?
0 for Ascend. I bootstrapped that from about $2,000. We're now turning over more than 100K a month. Bruno, we got an investor and we got about 100K, and we tried to learn everything from Ascend and pump it into a scalable version, but we've run into a huge amount of roadblocks with implementing that system due to the culture of work. Therapists are trained to only treat in the clinic, whereas we're doing a system where it's treated in the home. I spent 4 years just learning about how to do it in the clinic. So if you ask me, hey, go do services in the home, I'm like, oh shit, don't really know how to do that. Plus the culture of you guys here, like if you get an ouchie or a sorry something, straight away your head goes, I'm gonna go to a physio clinic, right? Your head doesn't go to, oh, I can get a service in the home. So there was a lot of challenges involved with trying to just push money in and build awareness and scale. Same model Ascend had for treatment and home kind of thing. So,
Yeah. How many people have you got working in Ascend?
Ascend has about 75 employees now. Bruno has 2. Rob's our web developer / growth marketer, SEO guy, but yeah, Rob is like probably the first person we've hired in Bruno. Yeah.
So you're looking at starting this in other places other than Perth?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Bruno 2 weeks ago. We've got services happening up in Bruno. Same model. It was funny because I was like, yeah, we can do it, but the conversation I had with Notre Dame was like, this is what we do, these are some things that are pivotal to our culture, so we have to have them substituted up here. Do you have therapists that can foster this same thing that we're doing down here? They're like, yep. All right, can you accommodate them? Yep. Can you provide them with a car? Yep. Sweet. All right, and then we're like, okay, we're just gonna go back, find out the students that want to do them, and we'll fly them up. We'll give them $400 towards their flights. And we were sitting down at Matzo's having a beer, and this lady comes in and to take our drinks. And she's like, oh, you're having a good holiday? We're like, oh, we're not really up here for holiday. We're up here trying to set up services. Oh, what do you do? Oh, we're a disability company and healthcare company that use therapy students as carers and support workers to make them better therapists. And she's like, oh, I'm a 4th year physio student that lives up here. I was like, oh, sweet. So we just hired her then and there, did a crash course orientation, like sitting in the resort by the pool, and then went to the NDIS and Brahms and the community services up there, and so we've got a student here, all yours, start working. So it was extremely lucky. I kind of fall on my face a little bit time.
Is it always going to be in Australia, do you think, or are you going to take it overseas?
I think healthcare knowledge and how we do healthcare in Australia will be like one of the biggest exports in the coming years. Yeah, absolutely. Our wealth of knowledge here and understanding in health is drastically different to overseas. Yeah. Anything else?
So is Bruno, is it like is it kind of like Mabel?
Yeah, Mabel's one of our competitors. Yeah, absolutely. I was devastated when I did my market research and found them. But we have a huge, like when we were mapping out our strategy, we were still going down the pathway of we want quality services, always quality. And the reason why we did that is because, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, when something's wrong with your health, you don't fuck around with it. You don't think, I might just go the cheapest one. Everyone has that tendency to go, no, I want the best. That's what makes all of you buy private health insurance as well. is this notion that if something does go wrong, you don't want someone to fuck around with it, you want the best. So we understood that Mabel would hire anyone, same with mobility, but what both of those companies really struggle with is they haven't been able to break through therapists yet. So our initial thing was actually therapists with Bruno, not support workers. And then our strategy was, well, the support workers are willing to work through the app. That's 90% of our revenue. If they get familiar with this process, that's our best chance of then transforming them into the therapists that are familiar with the system and understand what it's like to provide services in the home. So, our strategy is changing culture, changing the understanding of the people that are actually going to be these professionals in the future, and not just throw money at it like mobility and Mabel did. I remember it was about 2-3 months where I just saw ads for Mabel and mobility. Become a therapist. And I've got my own little therapy network pages. Just a quick post every now and then. Hey, is anyone actually working on Mabel or working on mobility? And all the comments, like all this like negative feedback. And I was like, well, I'm gonna take that and just digest that and apply it to what we're doing. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. Cool. All right, we all good?
Perfect. Thank you very much.